My name's Oliver Pitt. I'm a designer and illustrator and musician. This is my studio / bedroom for the time being whilst we're in lockdown. So my work goes between graphic design, visual art, commissioned illustrations, printmaking. Sometimes I'm working on artwork that's going to be displayed in a gallery, but then other times I'll be working on a poster for a local event that's going to get stuck up out on the street. And to me, they're kind of equally interesting and valid ways of interacting with images. I also work as a musician, been quite involved with music in Glasgow. A lot of work I've been doing recently is working with artists and record labels, creating artwork and record packaging. Wherever possible, I print these by hand myself, put a lot of care into the finished product. I often think of my work as a kind of collage, which doesn't necessarily mean just chopping up magazines and sticking them back together. It's a kind of process of finding and collecting images and graphic material, putting it through a process to create something new. Collagraph printing is a type of relief printmaking, so same category as kind of lino cuts or wood cuts. And it's done by taking a cardboard, you kind of cut away layers and make marks onto the surface, and this gives you the printing block. And I thought this could be a nice example of something that I do that I could give a demonstration, and hopefully something you might be able to try out or find inspiring. So this is a typographic film poster I made a long time ago that uses a Collagraph printing process, and I'm gonna go through the steps of how you can make one of these geometric letter forms, because it's quite simple, and that should give you a bit of a clearer idea of how this process works. So next you need your cardboard, which is what you'll make the printing block out of. A lot of people use mount board, but I often just use old bits of cardboard packaging that I find work just as well, especially if you can find one that's got this kind of really shiny outer surface. So next we're going to draw out the design onto the block so we can cut it out. At this stage it's important to remember that with relief printing, especially with text, you need to do everything in the mirror reflection of how you want it to come out, because everything will be printed the opposite way around. So for example, this is the block that printed this letter A. As you can see, it's there. But when you're cutting it, it's the opposite way around. So I've now marked out my shape just lightly in pencil, and next I'm gonna just colour in, just so I remember which parts of the letter I want to be black, which parts I want to be grey, and which parts I want to be light. So now, using a normal scalpel and a ruler, I'm just going to chop the outside of the letter so it gets rid of the background. So we've now got this nice O shape, but if I printed this as it was at the moment, it would just come out as this kind of flat diamond shape. But what we're wanting is this kind of lovely textured 3D effect, which you can get by having different shades of colour. And the way that you get this, and this is the slightly fiddly bit, but it's kind of easy once you've tried it, is by carefully peeling back layers of the cardboard. So instead of chopping all the way through, you kind of score the shapes that you want and you peel layers off. And the further down you peel, the more light it comes out when you print it. And this I'll explain later on. So with the O, we're wanting these bits here to be the darkest and these bits at the top to be the lightest. So I'm just going to go in there with the scalpel and peel back those bits. So you can already see it's starting to give that 3D look just by peeling off the top layer. So you can now see that we've got these 3 different heights of card, just probably less than a millimetre difference, but that will come out in the printing. So this top layer where I haven't cut it away at all, that will be the blackest. This surface here, I've just peeled back the thinnest layer I can, which should give a kind of dark grey. And then this layer, which is going to be the top, I've kind of scraped back as much as possible without going all the way through. So that surface will be the lowest and should, in theory, give us this kind of light top colour on the top. So we're now getting towards the final stage of this process, and as you can probably see, we've relocated out of my bedroom and are now in a letterpress printing workshop that's predominantly used for printing type on one of these kind of old letterpress printers. I'm going to be using the same machine because it also works really nicely for relief printing. So next we're going to put a layer of varnish onto the block, which just stops it being so absorbent and gives it a kind of shiny surface that means that the ink will come off the block and go onto the paper when you print with it instead of just getting absorbed into the cardboard. I'm just using a shellac varnish that's just a kind of standard. If you don't have a kind of wood varnish, you can probably just use watered down PVA. Now this is nice and dry, we're going to roll out the ink. And then just carefully roll the ink onto the block. And as it's the first print, I'll probably go over it a few times. But you'll notice as you go on, each time you re-ink it, it will get darker and darker. So obviously not everyone has access to an old letterpress printing machine at home, but there are other ways that you can make prints. One method is just to lay a thin sheet of newsprint over the top and either using your finger or the back of a spoon, press down onto the back of it, and that can give you a print of the image. Another thing you can do with these image blocks is make a rubbing of them. So for this you wouldn't need to ink it up at all or even varnish it. You just cut the image out of the block Again, lay a thin sheet of newsprint on top, and then use something like a wax crayon or charcoal, or this is a piece of graphite, and rub it over the surface, and that should, in theory, give you an impression of the image that's underneath.